Ladies and gentlemen, Chuck Schumer and the Democrats blinked, folded, caved, capitulated, and surrendered, and finally voted to reopen the government. Not only was this the longest government shutdown in American history, but by far the most pointless. Because what did the Democrats gain from their performative theatrics and withholding SNAP benefits from Americans? Absolutely nothing. Zero. Goose egg. And unsurprisingly, the bloodthirsty Democrat base is furious. As always, like the video and subscribe to the channel, guys. We have a ton of Democrat meltdowns in this video. But first, let's hear the announcement that 8 Senate Democrats broke rank and voted to reopen the government.
Let's begin with Madeline Rivera live from Washington with the latest on when we can expect this shutdown to officially end. Maddie, good morning.
Good morning, Todd. Well, the vote the Senate took overnight is the first step in a series of procedural maneuvers. And of course, the House will have to vote on the package, too. So it will take a few more days before the government reopens. But Sunday's vote was the first clear sign that a bipartisan deal had been reached after a roughly 40-day stalemate. The Senate voted 60-40 to back a revamped GOP funding bill that would keep the government open until the end of January. 8 Democrats joined Republicans to pass the bill, including Senate Minority Whip Dick Durbin, Senators Tim Kaine, Catherine Cortez Masto, and Jackie Rosen, among others.
Now, Democrats should honestly be thanking these 8 brave senators who put their neck on the line to get the Democrat Party out of this disastrous hole they put themselves in. They caused it, created it, and elongated it, and then were stuck in a spiral that they couldn't get out of without openly admitting that they were the ones who constructed the entire thing. But there's so much to get to in this video, so I'm gonna do less talking and more showing. Here is one of the Democrat senators, Angus Kane, on Morning Joe, explaining that this shutdown wasn't working. That's why he voted to stop it.
Well, Joe, you have to go back to what the strategy was at the beginning of the shutdown. There were 2 goals, both of which I support. One was standing up to Donald Trump. The other was getting some resolution on the ACA premium tax credit issue. The problem was the shutdown wasn't accomplishing either goals, and there was practically, well, there was zero likelihood that it was going to. In terms of standing up to Donald Trump, the shutdown actually gave him more power, Exhibit A being what he's done with SNAP and SNAP benefits across the country. Oh, by the way, Joe, you're going to love this. Guess who's getting paid during the shutdown? Not the park rangers or air traffic controllers, the ICE agents. Under special law, under that big, awful bill that they passed last summer, the ICE agents are being paid. Nobody else is. So standing up to Donald Trump didn't work. It actually gave him more power.
The thing about this whole stunt is it could have actually worked in some degree to the Democrats' favor if they weren't being so monumentally ridiculous about what they were asking. If from the beginning all they requested were extensions on the Affordable Care Act subsidies, hell, they might have actually got them. But they spent the entire time demanding all of the contents of the big beautiful bill must be repealed. We need hundreds of billions of dollars for free healthcare for illegals. We need hundreds of billions of dollars for free transition surgeries. We need you to roll back these cuts, roll back those cuts. And on top of everything else, permanent Affordable Care Act subsidies. Democrats created the Affordable Care Act, which made everyone's health insurance cost skyrocket. Democrats then passed subsidies to mask the absurdly high price increases. And now they're demanding Republicans also put duct tape around their extremely broken and flawed healthcare system. And remember, if these subsidies expire, the price of people's healthcare won't increase, it will just revert back to its original price. But now let's hear from Chuck Schumer about this shutdown ending and pretending like he's on the side of the fighters, even though he gave everybody permission to vote yes.
For months and months, Democrats have been fighting to get the Senate to address the health care crisis. This bill does nothing to ensure that that crisis is addressed. I am voting no, and I will keep fighting.
So that was Chuck Schumer saving face and pretending like he had absolutely nothing to do with this. Pretending like he was dug in and staunch opposition against Donald Trump. But listen to this next clip from one of the Democrat senators who voted yes, who said that, yeah, Chuck Schumer was entirely in the loop.
Senator Chuck Schumer, your leader on the Senate, said, I cannot support a continuing resolution that fails to address health care. I am voting no. Did you do this outside leadership, and was there a big push for you not to join the others and break the 60 threshold?
No, we kept leadership informed throughout. And I think it's important to remember who's responsible for why we got into this shutdown.
From the beginning, this entire shutdown didn't make sense from a purely objective numerical standpoint. Democrats said the cuts to Medicaid in the big beautiful bill must be repealed because 15 million people are going to get kicked off their health insurance. Well, first off, nobody was getting kicked off of their health care. All that was changed was work requirements were added. And if you can't meet the work requirements of 20 hours per week, volunteering, going to school, or working, then sorry, you don't get to mooch off the government. So that number is just completely inaccurate and should be disregarded. Now, their more accurate number is that 20 million people may see their health premiums rise if the Affordable Care Act subsidies aren't extended. Okay, fine. So we have a factual number, 20 million people. Well, let's compare that to the other factual numbers of people harmed by this shutdown. 42 million people not receiving SNAP benefits. Millions of federal workers not getting paid. Millions of servicemen not getting paid. So you're talking about 50 million people harmed and starved to protect 20 million people. The fundamental rule of government is to provide the greatest amount of benefit to the greatest amount of people. And the Democrats' stance and purported logic for this shutdown violates rule number one of government. But the bigwigs in the Democrat Party, you know, the compassion party, the friendly party, the we stand up for the poor and working class party, are absolutely furious that Senate Democrats are refusing to continue to starve 42 million Americans because they're so desperate to win against Donald Trump. Take a look.
But if you watch some of the coverage on other mainstream networks, they were upset, including leaders in the Democratic Party. Here's Bernie Sanders. Tonight was a very bad night. Zohran Mamdani, the new socialist mayor of New York, elect, he should be rejected, as should any politics willing to compromise on the basic needs of working people.
But as the mayor, he doesn't get a vote in this. So.
That's right. You got Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. People want us to hold the line for a reason. This is not a matter of appealing to a base. It's about people's lives, Brian.
Yeah, Newsom, who he's now playing the role of tough guy. It's hard to know what role he's playing because he changes so much. We saw capitulation and betrayal of working Americans. The American people need more from their leaders, and this is Chuck Schumer. America's in the midst of a Republican-made healthcare crisis, a crisis of so severe, so urgent, and so devastating the American family. Okay, I can't even finish reading this. Here's the thing
Look
about
at Ro Khanna.
Yeah, Ro Khanna, Senator Schumer should go. No longer effective to be replaced. He should be replaced. You can't lead the fight to stop healthcare premiums from skyrocketing for Americans. What will you fight for?
Now, I found some hilarious meltdowns on X, and I'm going to share those with you guys in a minute. But it's so hypocritical that the Democrats claimed they were shutting down the government to stand up for working class people and protect their health insurance premiums from increasing. But I don't know if they realize this, the people on food stamps aren't the rich and the well off. They were starving the same people they were claiming to protect. And they also claimed they were doing this to stand up and fight against the rise of fascism. Well, I'm sorry to tell you, people can't fight fascism on an empty stomach. North Korea keeps their citizens as close to starvation as possible explicitly so they won't have enough time and energy to fight against their authoritarian regime. Now, let's take a look at some of these reactions. Harry Sisson says, I'm so sick of weak Democrats. We need fighters who will stand up to Trump and MAGA. We need a big tent of fighters, not folders. Again, you see, he's not asking for savvy politicians who can creatively work to get things done in a productive way for their constituents. No, he's just looking for activist, violent revolutionaries who want to overthrow our entire system. And whenever that day comes, then they can worry about how they're actually going to govern differently. AOC says the average monthly SNAP benefit is $177 a person, which is false, by the way. The average ACA benefit is up to $550 a person. People want us to hold the line for a reason. This is not a matter of appealing to a base. It's about people's lives. Working people want leaders whose words mean something. No, it is about appealing to your base. Most of the Democrat base are well-off, to-do, rich people placating as socialist revolutionaries. I promise you, if you ask the single mothers with 3 kids to feed who are on SNAP, or the elderly people who are barely getting by with Social Security and SNAP, do you want to see Democrats stick it to Donald Trump or do you want money to feed yourself and your family? I promise you they're going to choose food. But Democrats don't care because in their ivory tower, concepts like hunger are nebulous. They're academic. The suffering of people is romanticized to them. It's the same way the Democrats are so against Donald Trump cleaning up violence in the inner cities, because the suffering of a black mother whose child just got hit by a stray bullet and died at a playground doesn't register with them. It's not real to them. It's a fiction story that they hear about sometimes. This podcaster wrote, "The most disgusting part of this pathetic display from jello-spined Democrats is that a deal this week could have been agreed to in under a week, so why even bother with 40 days of pain? Primary them now, Chuck Schumer resign." Exactly. They got nothing for this. They got absolutely nothing, created real tangible pain for tens of millions of Americans, and also publicly admitted that this entire shutdown was manufactured by them and they could have ended it at any moment. Brian Tyler Cohen writes, "We're not going to fix the Democrats' brand by doing TikToks or launching podcasts. The brand is a direct reflection of the strength of our elected officials. If we want to purge our weak branding, we have to purge the weak Democrats. I'm looking forward to a robust primary cycle and ushering in a new era of Democrats who actually know how to fight. If you guys are looking for fighters, you shouldn't have spent the last 15 years exiling and ostracizing anybody with traditional male characteristics that you need in this moment. And they still don't understand. Voters don't want them to fight. Voters want them to find solutions. The only people, and I mean the only people, who want Democrats to fight this nebulous concept of democracy versus fascism are well-off-to-do people whose bellies are full, who have secure housing, who pay for their healthcare costs, and can engage and afford to engage in these kind of philosophical battles. But let's hear the disappointment from none other than Bernie Sanders, who said, "This was very, very, very bad."
Tonight, 8 Democrats voted with the Republicans to allow them to go forward on this continuing resolution. And to my mind, this was a very, very bad vote. What it does, first of all, is it raises healthcare premiums for over 20 million Americans by doubling, and in some cases tripling or quadrupling. People can't afford that when we are already paying the highest prices in the world for healthcare. Number 2, it paves the way for 15 million people to be thrown off of Medicaid and the Affordable Care Act. Studies show that will mean that some 50,000 Americans will die every year unnecessarily. And all of that was done to give $1 trillion in tax breaks to the 1%. As everybody knows, just on Tuesday, we had an election all over this country. And what the election showed is that the American people want us to stand up to Trumpism, to his war against working class people, to his authoritarianism. That is what the American people wanted, but tonight, that is not what happened.
No reasonable human being with even a shred of decency would consider using the American people's ability to feed themselves as political leverage. But the Democrats once again had to stoop to historic new lows just to prove to everybody that they are as spineless, weak, and ineffective as ever. To me, this isn't even like a ha-ha Democrats, you lose again moment. It's just a good moment for the country. Chuck Schumer strategically allowed these Senate Democrats to vote to reopen the government because they were all either retiring or not up for re-election until 2028. The Democrats were in the midst of what we refer to as the sunk cost fallacy. This is where in business you invest so much time and so much money into a particular project or initiative that even though it's clearly evident what you're trying to do won't be successful, you continue to double down because of all the time and resources you've already invested. And that's exactly what happened to the Democrats here. The Democrats created an extremely meaningless government shutdown that inflicted misery upon tens of millions of Americans, blamed it all on Republicans, and then realized the Republicans weren't going to budge. And the Democrat influencers and politicians expressing their anger that the government is reopening are proving how heartless and psychopathic they are, that they wanted a political win no matter the cost, even at the expense of American suffering. But let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you have not already. Turn on those notification bells so you never miss a video. And I will see you guys in the next one.